This is a little ditty about why the GOP is like being raised in an old patriarchal Greek home. I know we talked about this before, but I think I just want to do an ongoing thing about the resemblance between old Greek dads and fathers, and even some that are still this way today. I'm sure there still are some, especially ones that are new to the country or have come over very young, and their parents raised them in this fashion. So I just kind of want to show you the similarities and what we're heading towards if we don't stop these people in the GOP from accomplishing the goals that they're setting. The GOP thinks they know what's best for everybody. And really, it's about power. It's about them controlling people and having power, and particularly old white dudes having power, which is really funny because Greeks were never ever having power back when they first got here. Their towns were raided and they were hunted by the Ku Klux Klan, but hey, who's counting? Greek men really thought that they knew what was best for the women in their families, and that's why they controlled the power. They had to. I mean, we were the scapegoats for the family for anything bad that happened. My dad was ate up with shame. Who brought it onto the family? Who caused it? It was always about bringing shame on the family and why you shouldn't behave in certain fashions. And mostly it was the women who brought the shame to the family, even if they were little kids like I was when it was first being shoved down my throat that I had to watch how I behaved so I didn't bring shame onto the family, which is a fucking joke because my dad was an alcoholic. He was an abuser. He beat up my mother. He did drugs. He cheated on her. Not to say that my mom was a fucking saint, but, it was funny that him being a drug abuser and a spouse abuser was the thing that was going to bring shame on the family. Wasn't the thing that was going to bring shame on the family. It was me. It was me if I acted provocatively, wore low cut blouses, whatever it was, I was going to bring shame on the family, not him and his abuse. That was never the thing that was going to bring shame on the family. He told me if I had sex or a baby outside of marriage, it would bring shame on the family. Not anything that he did or my mother did. Me. I was going to cause the shame. And the reason why, if I had sex or had a baby outside of marriage, I would be a whore and used goods and never actually find a husband, because no husband could possibly love my child from another relationship the way a man could love his own child. And that was distinctly because my father thought that I was a product of an affair my mother had for his entire life, till the day he fucking died. I was not his. So basically, as I was writing this, I realized he was telling me my whole life, I can't possibly love you like I would have if I know for sure that you are my kid. They arranged marriages for the whole time that I can remember. I grew up in the 60s and beyond, and they would arrange marriages. They would send for young women and spinsters to come and marry these old Greek dudes. Can you imagine being 15 years old, 16 years old, and being moved out of the only village and country you've ever lived in, put on an airplane and sent to live with some 30 or 40-year-old dude, and that was going to be your husband? Can you imagine what the trauma of that was to a child? But they did that to bring honor and some money into a family, either on the husband's side or the wife's side. Generally, it was the woman that had more money. But my grandfather even brought this 60-year-old woman over from Greece to marry after his wife died. They tried to do it to me in 1977. I went to Greece when I was almost 16 years old, and my mom's stepmother tried to marry me off to some 30-year-old guy over in Greece. That's the only time my father saved me from anything terrible in my life, was at that moment when he told them no. But they would have done it if they could have. They would have had a marriage put together while I was on that island for 3 weeks, and I would have been married to some Greek dude and stuck in Greece, which maybe at this point I probably wouldn't mind so much being stuck in Greece. But, you should have a choice of what you want to do with your fucking life. So when you see these GOP old ass white dudes and some of the party's white ladies, or even the people of color that are in this party, It's because they look at controlling women like we're stock, you know, we're going to raise babies or have babies that will toe the same line, because after a generation or two of shoving that down somebody's throat, they just think this is normal and this is how it's supposed to be, right? And you might wonder why the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Lauren Boeberts would help control the other women. And that's because they recognize they have no power. They don't have any power. They have the power that those old white dudes allow them to have. And so they will take the side of the oppressor, thinking that they won't be oppressed by doing that. They think that they'll get to make choices for themselves. Nope, not even close. You know how I know that? I know that because even the women in my family, my mother and my aunt included, my aunt owned her own business and my mom rose up to the top of the level in banking that she could go to when she started working at the time she was 14. They knew that their power was limited and they had to do what in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Stavrula's mother told her. She told her daughter in My Big Fat Greek Wedding that the man is the head of the household, but the wife is the neck, and the neck turns the head. That's fucking bullshit. Not because that's not what they did, because they did do that, but because it's fucking manipulation. That's why. No one should ever have to manipulate another person to gain their freedom. It should just be freedom.